Chapter 4, Mount Moon. G'day everyone, Rune here, and this is Chapter 4 of my What If Red Was Ash's Father story. If you're new to this series, click the link in the description below to be taken to the playlist. Now let's begin the next chapter. Ash dashes forward the instant he sees Syl topple off of the top of Onyx's head, barely making it in time to catch the little Eevee in his arms before he can hit the ground. Pulling Syl close, Ash begins to check him over, pressing his hand to his furry forehead to check for a temperature, his ears perked for any sound that could indicate that his breathing is becoming hindered by fluid in his lungs. But his nerves are shot and his mind is racing with 1,000 possibilities. He's hardly registering anything he's doing. He only semi-comes back to himself when he feels a hand land on his shoulder. Looking up from Syl, he comes face to face with a worried Brock. Seeing the panic on the younger boy's face, he quickly leads him into another room before helping him sit down in a chair. Keeping his voice calm, he then asks Ash if he can take Syl for a moment to check him over. Unable to get his voice to work, Ash just nods, allowing his best friend to be taken by the gym leader. His hands aren't empty for long, however, as they are swiftly filled by the hands of someone else. Slender fingers trace patterns in his palm, drawing his attention away from his thoughts and calming him with their soothing rhythm. After a moment, he's able to recognize who those hands belong to: Marina. A few moments later, his breathing has gone back to normal and Brock has returned. Placing a hand on Ash's shoulder, he tells the younger boy that Syl is going to be fine. He passed out from exhaustion, so he's going to need rest, but he should make a full recovery. Ash breathes a sigh of relief, the last of the tension in his shoulders draining out. Cautiously, as if worried that it'll set Ash off again, Brock brings up the topic that Syl has incredibly low stamina for an Eevee, and Ash didn't seem confused by his passing out. He was worried, yes, but he seemed to have an idea of what was going on. Ash looks down at his hands, still shaking and held gently in Marina's, as he begins to explain. Syl was born with a weak immune system. There was even a time when they were little when he almost died from a fever. When Syl passed out, he panicked and thought that maybe Syl had gotten sick and he hadn't realized. Brock asks why Ash had Syl fight in the battle. It would be better if Syl was kept away from such things if he's so fragile. Ash's eyes blaze at the word. Oh, how he hates that word. He turns to the gym leader, all fear and panic gone as he glares at him. He snaps at the man to not call Syl fragile. He may have a weak immune system, but he is not fragile. Has he forgotten that he took down his Onyx not 5 minutes ago? Brock holds up his hands in surrender, suddenly feeling nervous and experiencing an odd sense of deja vu. You're right, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. He explains that what he meant was, why did he have Syl participate if it posed a risk to his health? Ash calms down, explaining that battling isn't a risk as long as Syl isn't already sick. He'd never have Syl battle if he was even a little sick. Marina pipes up next, asking if it would be better to have more team members so that Syl doesn't need to battle as much. Ash frowns at her that he's not going to exclude Syl like that. Syl loves battles just as much as he does. He'd be a really rotten friend if he didn't support Syl in his desire to be a battler. Brock sighs before standing up. Seeing that the boy has already made his decision on this subject, he decides to shelve it for the time being. Instead, he invites the two trainers to stay the night, as it will probably be a while before Syl wakes up, and by then, it will already be dark. The two 10-year-olds gratefully accept, staying over with the large rock specialist family for the night. The next morning, Syl is bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, feeling good as new after his sleep. Ash hugs his best friend in relief, as he turns to Brock, thanking him for his help. Brock pats him on the head, telling him that it was no problem. Thinking that there's no reason for them to stay in Pewter, Ash and Marina prepare to leave. Standing out front of the gym, they bid the family goodbye, only to be surprised when Brock walks up to stand next to them, with a bag strapped to his back, and also bids his little siblings farewell. Shocked, the two 10-year-olds ask why he's coming with them. Turning to them, Brock explains that he's worried about them. Syl might need medical attention again, and if there's no Pokemon Center nearby, they'll need someone with medical training to help. Besides, he was planning on taking a sabbatical in order to get his little brother ready for when he takes over the gym anyway. So this would be like feeding two Pidgey with one Pokeblock. Ash and Marina exchange a look, then shrug. After leaving Pewter, the trio begin to make their way to Mount Moon, stopping along the way to have some lunch. While they're all sitting down to eat, Brock decides to bring the topic of Syl's condition up again. He tells Ash that he's not going to try and stop them, as he can see that this means a lot to them, but it is still an issue that needs to be addressed. Ash sighs, asking what they can do. Smiling, Brock explains that, in his younger days, he'd been pretty captivated with the idea of becoming a Pokemon breeder. So he'd learned a lot about Pokemon as a result, including different ways to treat birth disorders. He's forced to hold in a chuckle as Ash suddenly gives him his full, undivided attention, eyes sparkling with interest. He explains that a condition like Syl's can be treated in a multitude of different ways, with the most effective being a regimen of vitamins. He startles as an enthusiastic Ash cuts him off, asking what vitamins he'd need. Sweat dropping a little, he tells the boy that iron is usually used to strengthen the Pokemon's immune system, while HP up is used to improve the Pokemon's stamina, and Carbos is used to help the absorption of the other two. 2 pills from each, one in the morning and one at night, for a period of a year should improve Syl's condition exponentially. He stops Ash just as he's about to start celebrating, explaining that there is a catch. Vitamins are rare. They're only sold in major department stores like the one in Celadon City, and on top of that, they're really expensive, going for 10,000 poker a bottle. And one bottle usually lasts 1 month, so if you do the math, the treatment will be 360,000 poker in total. Marina's jaw drops open in shock, unable to believe that the treatment of such a serious condition costs so much. How is anyone supposed to afford that? She turns to Ash slowly, expecting to see the poor boy looking dejected, only to see him grinning from ear to ear and his eyes blazing with determination. Confidently, he says that, from what he's hearing, he doesn't need to pay all of that off at once, right? So all he needs to do is earn 30,000 poker in prize money from battles and tournaments each month, and he'll be able to get Syl that treatment. He can do that. Marina stares at her friend, unsure whether to call this optimism, delusion, or just plain stubbornness. How can he be so confident that he can pull that off? She feels like she should point out that earning that kind of money that quickly and that regularly isn't as easy as he seems to think. But as Ash turns to Syl to lift him into his arms and tell him that he has a plan to help him get stronger, she finds herself unable to say anything. Looking over to Brock, she can tell she's not the only one. When they reach Mount Moon, it's late evening, but still plenty of time to reach the other side of the mountain before dark, provided they don't have any major detours. Determined to reach Cerulean City as fast as possible, they enter the tunnel that leads to the other side. After a few moments of walking, Ash turns to his companions, asking if they've noticed anything weird or if it's just him. Marina shakes her head, looking really unsettled, telling him that it's not just him. Brock nods in agreement. It's too quiet. They haven't seen or heard any wild Pokemon since entering the tunnel. Suddenly, Syl's ear twitches and he jumps out of Ash's arms. Flicking his ears around, he listens carefully for that sound again. When he catches it, he gestures for the others to follow him. Quickly and quietly, they follow deeper into the tunnel, keeping close to the rocks. As they move, they begin to see a strange light glowing just around the bend of the tunnel and hear the sound of voices. Creeping up to the bend, they make sure to stay quiet as they peek around to see what's going on. Ash hears Brock give a mostly suppressed gasp at the sight of the strange men and women in black uniforms with rainbow R's standing in front of a large blue, purple, and white hole with cracks coming off of it, floating in the middle of the cave. They listen as best they can to the conversation going on between the suspicious group. With the sound coming from the hole they're standing next to, it's not easy, but they are able to hear a few names and words. Celadon, Sabrina, Elite Four, Tower, and Commander are able to be picked up over the noise. Before they can even begin trying to make heads or tails of what they're saying, they begin to walk deeper into the tunnel, leaving the glowing hole behind. Ash and Marina dash out from their rock cover to follow them, not noticing Brock calling for them to come back. Their pursuit of the mysterious group is stopped, however, when they near the hole in space. Even though they were aiming to go around it, as soon as they're within 10 feet of it, it glows even brighter and expands. Ash and Marina jump back in shock as Brock runs up to them, placing himself between the children and the vortex. Through the near-blinding light, Ash is able to see near-transparent tendrils emerge. They wrap around the edges of the vortex as whatever they belong to looks for a purchase to pull itself through. Within seconds, the trio are staring at a strange creature that looks like someone had taken a tentacle, fused it with a gelatine, and removed its face. Brock? What do you call that thing? 2 words. Ultra Beast. Ash's eyes widen in fear as he stares at the jellyfish-like Pokemon in front of him, his mind flashing back to the many times he'd woken up to find his father kneeling on the floor with his head on the bed fast asleep. And the one time when he was 7, when he'd asked his mum why he did that. His mum's response was to tell him that his father had bad nightmares about monsters called Ultra Beasts, and seeing Ash safe and sound helped. He'd thought that they were like the Boogeyman or the Darkrai under the bed, a monster that your imagination made up to scare you. But here was the proof of their existence staring him right in the face. This was one of the monsters that scared his dad? He's broken out of his thoughts as Brock tackles him and Marina out of the way of a tentacle. The shock is just what he needs to push the fear from his mind. This thing may be an Ultra Beast, but it's still a physical thing. Not a monster that exists only in nightmares in the dark corners of a room, meaning they can fight back. As the thought comes to his mind, his view of the Ultra Beast is blocked by Brock, who's now standing between the creature and the 2 10-year-olds. With a voice that conveys a frightening seriousness, he tells them that he'll fight the Ultra Beast while they make a run for it. Then, without waiting for a response from either of the children, he grabs one of the Pokeballs at his belt and calls out a Pokemon that he never used in his battle with either of them, Kabutops. Upon spotting what his opponent is, Kabutops' eyes narrow in a look of pure disdain. The kind that only comes from a personal grudge. Almost before Brock even gives the call, Kabutops is moving, his long sides becoming coated in the hyper-pressurized water of Razor Shell. When the attack connects, the Ultra Beast is sent flying into the wall of the cave, the impact making the creature cry out. Ash watches in amazement, his mind already going into battle mode and trying to calculate what type this creature is. The water-type attack had clearly done damage, and under the sound of its cry, he could have sworn he heard another sound, both when the attack hit and when it collided with the rock wall. The same sound he'd heard when he dropped a glass sauce bottle when he was 6. Is this Ultra Beast's body made out of glass? If so, then that would mean it's a rock type! The moment the words are out of his mouth, both Ash and Marina are reaching for their belts, each grabbing a Pokeball. With a call of the Pokemon's names, Ash calls out Haku while Marina calls out Toti. Not wasting a moment, they call for their Pokemon to attack, with Toti launching a water gun and Haku a whirlpool. The Ultra Beast takes the hits with a pained cry before it begins to move. Looking like it's swimming through the air, it rushes back to the vortex. Before the trio can react, it touches the vortex and there's a sudden, strange sound as the Ultra Beast and the vortex begin to stretch and warp. It almost looks like a glitching image on a TV screen. And within seconds, both the Ultra Beast and the vortex are gone. Before they can even catch their breaths from that, they hear the sounds of a fight coming from further up the tunnel and rush forward. It doesn't take them long to find what's creating the noise. The group that they'd seen earlier, battling a woman with long blonde hair tied back in a ponytail, a tall man with purple hair, and a little girl with long ginger hair tied into a braid. All 3 of them are wearing a strange jumpsuit and helmets with a visor over their eyes. At their sides are 2 Pokemon each, the blonde with an Alolan Raticate, the man with a Furfrou, and the girl with a Shinx. The second Pokemon is the same for each of them, and is one that none of the trio have ever seen before. Noticing the group now behind them, in addition to the trio they're currently battling, one of the men in the black uniform grabs something from their pocket and throws it down, creating a blinding flash of light. When the glare fades and they're all able to see again, the suspicious group is gone. Seeing that their opponents have fled, the blonde woman sighs before walking up to Ash and his friends. In a calm and professional tone, she apologizes for the inconvenience and asks if they've seen the group that just fled before. Before Ash or Marina can respond, Brock asks just who the woman and her companions are. The woman apologizes for her rudeness before introducing herself as Dazaltons, then introducing her companions as Zosie and Dulce. She explains that they're members of the Ultra Recon Squad, a group that investigates ultra wormholes and any other phenomena that are connected to them. They have reason to suspect the group that just fled are connected to recently increased ultra wormhole activity. Before she can ask again if they've encountered the escaped group before, an alarm sounds from a device on Dulce's wrist, causing Dazaltons to turn to him in alarm, asking what's happening. After looking the device over, he informs his captain that there seems to be a spike in ultra energy not far away. Face grim, Dazaltons tells her team to prepare to move out before turning back to Ash, Marina, and Brock. Apologizing for the abrupt departure, she requests that they think upon any time that they may have seen the group and keep their eyes open for them in the future. If they do see them, she advises them not to engage and instead inform the nearest authorities, who will then inform her group. With those last words, she turns and begins to lead her group through the tunnel, leaving Ash and his friends with a terrible sense of foreboding. And that, everyone, is where I'm going to leave the story for now. Join me next time as Ash and his friends finally reach Cerulean. I'm Rune. See you next chapter.